Shellfish reefs, one of the most underrated underwater biodiversity hotspots. Migrating fish and birds all depend greatly on the existence of creatures that can fit in the palm of your hand. Individually they might not make a big impression, but together they make all the difference. Join me as we take a dive into the world of shellfish reefs. Shellfish reefs occur largely in intertidal and upper subtidal regions of bays, estuaries and nearshore water, and are a complex three-dimensional living structure. Shellfish reefs can consist of one or more reef-forming species, such as the common mussel and the flat oyster. Let's talk about one of the most familiar bivalves, the common mussel. This little shellfish lives on rocky, sandy or muddy shores. It forms large, dense mussel beds that cover the seabed, with each mussel attaching itself to the seabed and each other using sticky fibers called byssus threads. When the low tides exposes the mussel bed, it becomes a seabird buffet. The oyster catcher would know. They are also an important food source for starfish, flatfish, crabs and dog whelks. But mussels aren't hopeless against these predators. It can use the sticky byssus threads to immobilize the dog whelk, resulting in a slow death. Just like mussels, oysters are considered an ecosystem engineer, which are just fancy words for saying that it is an organism that modifies, maintains and/or creates a habitat. In this case, it engineers a reef. Oyster reefs of the European flat oyster, for example, are usually formed on mixed substrate such as mud, sand, gravel and shells in shallow water less than 10 meters deep. Did you know that a single oyster can filter around 200 liters of seawater daily? It's quite incredible. Oyster reefs and mussel beds are essential for healthy, rich underwater life. They filter seawater and provide shelter for many small animals such as crabs and shrimps. They are a resting and spawning area for many fish such as plaice, cod and sea bass. By attracting so many fish, they also attract sharks, rays, porpoises and seals. Even birds take advantage of the shellfish reef as they feed on the many shrimp, small fish and shellfish. They also provide hard substrate for other species with their shells, living species but also dead shell material that increases as the reef continues to grow provides substrate. It gives sharks, rays, smaller fish and cuttlefish the opportunity to attach and deposit their eggs, but gives also many hard substrate loving species, such as barnacles, bryozoas, algae or even deadman's thumb, a soft coral, a place to settle down. Additionally, they affect their surrounding area by trapping and retaining sediments, which also helps reduce erosion as it helps sediments to stick to their grounds. They are also proven to recycle nutrients such as phosphates and nitrogen, which leads to better water quality. Besides offering shelter and food to many coastal species, shellfish reefs provide a number of benefits that promote healthy coastal environments. They buffer the coast from waves, reducing erosion and creating calmer waters that support the growth of coastal marshes and seagrass beds. They are also extremely effective filter feeders, improving the surrounding water quality and clarity by filtering the water. Natural coast protection is most effective when multiple habitats are able to work together to maximize the overall benefits to the coastal community. Shellfish reefs are one of the most threatened marine habitats. 85 of all oyster reefs globally have been lost in the last 2 centuries. Overfishing, habitat destruction and decrease in water quality have all contributed to the decline. Harvesting and habitat degradation tends to go hand in hand. The current methods of shellfish harvesting are in many places actually very old, unchanged and outdated. These techniques require scraping oysters off the reef for collection. Dredging and tongue harvesting are among the most popular methods for harvesting oysters that can take decades to recover from. Continual dredging can entirely flatten a three-dimensional reef structure. As said before, shellfish reefs are great at filtering water, and doing so creates clear and healthy environments. Ironically enough, one of the biggest threats is increase of poor water quality. Runoff and erosion from industry, farming and development all contribute to lower salinity, lower oxygen levels and silt overload. Disease also plays a role. Because of the huge loss in shellfish reefs, there is only a very small genetic pool left for regrowing oyster reefs and fending off illnesses. And of course, climate change also affects shellfish reefs. Ocean acidification due to climate change threatens the life of all shellfish and the existence of shellfish reefs. Shells are made of calcium carbonate, and by increasing pH levels, shells become nearly impossible to build and become weaker than needed. Fortunately, there are made many restoration efforts by all kinds of organizations. When it comes to restoration of shellfish reefs, there's no one way to do it. There are many different approaches and methods, from small to large scale. Generally speaking, when it comes to restorations of marine ecosystems, there are two approaches: reducing pressure on the system and allowing natural recovery. With reducing pressure, you can think of the way we harvest shellfish with oyster and mussel farms instead of picking from wild reefs, addressing pollution that gets into the water, all the things that contribute to the decline of shellfish reefs. When it comes to the recovery of shellfish reefs, there are many different ways to promote that. One of the approaches on large scale takes, for example, oysters and puts them in 2 containers during spawning season. Females and males are separated. When they produce eggs and sperms, it gets filtered out through a mesh and put into a single container to mingle and form fertilized eggs. Here they go through all the stages an oyster goes through. When they get to the stage of spat, they settle on substrate they see fit. This can be other oysters, empty shells, or specific materials. Depending on the goal, the spat on the substrate can either be thrown into the water of suitable shellfish areas right away, or when they have grown to maturity. Sometimes this process happens all in the same container, or even in a big pond near the site. It all depends on the scale and the control they want in the project. But there is also happening a lot on small scale. This includes depositing shellfish cages, hanging or on the bottom, concrete structures, wind farms and shell recycling schemes. Often these smaller scale actions also engage with the community, which is just as crucial. For restoration efforts to work, we need community, businesses, institutions and organizations efforts working together on large and small scale if we want to see and benefit of this incredible marine habitat.